Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Currently On podcast. It is Sunday, August the 2nd, 2020. It is currently 5:11 p.m. Central Time. Now, I know you can't see, but right here in my hands, I am holding, hot off the press, all of the numbers, all of the statistics about Taylor Swift's new album, Folklore. Exactly how big is this album? How big of a success has this album been? Not only in light of 2020, but maybe in more recent history. I mean, obviously everyone's talking about it. Obviously there's been all kinds of buzz on social media, but what do the numbers tell us? I have them right here in my hands. Really? Do you want to see? You can't see. Yeah. Do you want me to tell you? Of course you want me to tell you. Right off, hot off the press from billboard.com. Billboard.com. Here I have it. I have a picture of Taylor Swift sitting next to a tree. She's sitting next to a tree, but we're not really interested in why she's sitting next to that tree, are we? No, she's probably sitting next to that tree and she's got this look on her face. Okay, go ahead and tell me, how big is my album? Go ahead and tell me how big of a success I have been. She probably already knows, okay? But now we know. All right, here we have it. Okay, I know. You like get to the point, but I have to keep you listening for a few minutes, right? All right, here we go. All right. Taylor Swift achieves, are you ready? Her 7th number one album on Billboard 200 chart and biggest week of 2020 with Folklore. So it's her 7th number one album. That is a massive success. Whether you like her, whether you hate her, you can't deny her success. And listen, this is what I tell people all the time. Whether you like an artist or hate an artist, if they're successful and people are listening to music and they're streaming, it's usually good for the record company. It's good for the artist. It's good for the music business at large. So more success to more artists, whether I like them or hate them. Be successful. Let's keep the music industry as strong as we can because I love music and I want record companies to be massively successful so that they can, guess what? Invest in other artists, new and upcoming artists. I want those streaming services to be successful where new and upcoming artists have a platform to get their music heard. So, hey, Taylor Swift, she has been a big deal for the music industry. There's no way to get around that. Her success has been significant for the music industry and I think for many streaming services as well. Well, let's read this. Okay, so Taylor Swift, she achieves her 7th number one album on Billboard 200 chart and biggest week of 2020 with Folklore. Here's some information. Taylor Swift's Folklore flies in at number one on the Billboard 200 albums chart, capturing the biggest week for any album since Swift's last release, 2019's Lover. Now that's crazy to think about. She releases an album in 2020, and it's the biggest album since the last album released by Taylor Swift. Okay. So come on. It's always awesome when one artist, now here's what happens. When an artist reaches this level, then everyone wants to hate on them. Everyone wants to turn on them. Don't do that. Don't be like that. Don't hate someone because they're successful. All right. That's just crazy. Celebrate her success. So again, Taylor Swift's Folklore, it flies in at number one on the Billboard 200 albums chart, capturing the biggest week for any album since Swift's last release, 2019's Lover. Folklore was released with little advance notice on July the 24th and earned Swift her 7th number one album. Folklore starts with 846,000 equivalent album units earned in the U.S. in this week ending July the 30th, according to Nielsen Music MRC data. That marks the largest week registered for any album since Swift's own Lover, which debuted at number one on the September 7th, 2019 dated chart with 867,000 units. Further, in the last 4 years, the 3 biggest weeks for any album have been racked up by Swift, dating back to July of 2016. The 3 largest frames for any album are, number one, Swift's Reputation, 1.24 million units, December the 2nd, 2017. Lover, 867,000, and Folklore, 846,000. Now, you could say those numbers are going down, and you could talk a lot about that, but you have to talk about how the decrease in physical sales and how streams are weighed versus physical, when a physical album is sold versus an album being streamed. The music charts still have to figure all of that out. Bottom line is she was massively successful, and that is good for her. And hopefully it's, good for everyone in the business. Let's see, what else do we have here? So 7 number one. I'm just going to skip and give you some of the basic information here. 7th number one album, Folklore marks Swift's 7th number one on the Billboard 200 albums chart, tying her with Janet Jackson for the 3rd most leaders among women in the history of the chart. Ahead of them on the leading ladies list are Barbra Streisand with 11 number ones, Madonna with 9. Among all acts, the Beatles have the most number one albums with 19. Now, it would be interesting to look at that list for the Beatles, because how many of those are reissues? But that could possibly be said with Barbra Streisand and Madonna and even Janet Jackson. So, we could. I've just a thought that came to my head there. Before Folklore, Swift topped the chart with Lover, number one for 1 week, September the 7th, 2019, dated chart. Reputation, number one for 4 weeks. 1989, number one for 11 weeks. Red, number one for 7 weeks. Speak Now, number one for 6 weeks. And Fearless, number one for 11 weeks. Please note, Lover was number one for 1 week. Again, showing that there's been a lot of discussion about that in music, is how long are you relevant? Like, the joke is you release an album and it's only relevant for 48 hours. You release an album on Friday, by Monday, everyone's moved on. Now, obviously that doesn't mean everyone, but it just means there's like an initial interest. Everyone hits the streaming services, listens to it, and then many just move on and not are just sitting there listening to it over and over. And then then every once in a while you'll get that one song, that one album that just people just stream over and over and over and over and over and over. And so it's interesting that it seems that music moves quickly now. You release it and then people move on. And I don't know if there's ever, it's hard. I don't think we're ever going to change that, because you have so much available to you. Hey, look, the new Taylor Swift album. Oh, that's good. Oh, okay. I realize. Oh, look. I haven't heard that. Oh, look. I haven't heard that. Oh, wait. Oh, my playlist that I have has been updated. Oh, wait, this new song got released. Oh, wait, over there. Oh, wait, butterfly. Oh, wait, another butterfly. Wait. Oh, the wind's blowing. Attention deficit disorder. We're all over the place. So for one album, now I would strongly suggest, here's my theory about music, is when albums come out that you like, force yourself to do everything in your power to listen to that album 10 times. I know you're like, that's crazy. Just, hey, you listen, the album comes out on Friday, and then Monday, maybe you're getting ready to go to work, whatever. Just make sure that's the album you listen to. Just try to listen to the same album 10 times. Your love for it may grow in a very fast way, and you may appreciate it far more. And you have to live with an album before that album becomes one of those albums that, 10 years later, you're like, oh, remember the summer of 2020? Man, I listened to that album over and over. You have to really live with an album for it to become a part of your DNA, become a part of your existence. So definitely listen to that. So, whatever album, doesn't have to be Folklore, whatever. Let's see, a couple of other things. Most number one debuts among women. All 7 of Swift's number one albums have debuted at number one, a record among female artists. Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Madonna, Britney Spears are tied with the second most debuts at number one among women with 6 each. And then they just go through. Among all acts, Jay-Z has the most debuts at number one with 14. All of his number one albums have debuted at number one. Wow, that's pretty awesome. So 7th number one, most number one debuts among women. All 7 of Swift's number one albums have debuted at number one, a record among female artists. Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Madonna, and Britney Spears are tied with the second most debuts at number one among women with 6 each. So Taylor has 7, they have 6. So there you go. Let's see, what else do we have here? But Jay-Z, obviously, she's the most number one debut among women. All right, so that's the main thing to realize there. 2020's biggest week for an album and biggest for any album since Swift's last release. We already talked about that. Swift has the 3 biggest weeks for any album in the last 4 years, and the biggest sales week for an album since Lover. All right, so all of those things are things we've talked about. Folklore is already 2020's top-selling album. First act to have 7 different albums sell at least 500,000 in a single week. She's the first act to have 7 different albums sell at least 500,000 in a single week. All right, and then she also is the largest streaming week of 2020 for an album by a woman. All right, and I talk about the number of streams, which are pretty amazing. So Taylor Swift is number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. She flew in at number 1. That's where she is. If you're interested in who else is on the chart, I'll just give you some basic information. At number 2, Logic's No Pressure. He's number 2. Number 3 is Juice WRLD, Legend Never Dies. It was number 1. It fell back to number 3. See, what else do we have here on the chart that I want to point to you? Post Malone, he's still on the chart. Rounding out the top 10 on the Billboard 200 are a pair of former number 1s as Post Malone's Hollywood Bleeding shifts 7 to 9. And Harry Styles, man, how is he still? I mean, that's just that Harry Styles and Post Malone. It just feels like those are very. So those are albums that kind of defy maybe the idea. They've been around for a while. So some albums do stick around. So that kind of goes against some of those that logic that some goes quickly. Anything else here on the charts that I want to point out? I think that's it. Hamilton has now, Hamilton is back on the chart. The original Broadway cast recording of Hamilton slips to 4 to 5. Obviously it peaked. It peaked at number 2 on July the 18th after Disney Plus premiered the filmed version of Broadway's show. Hamilton has now spent 27 consecutive weeks on the top 10 of the Billboard 200, the most of any cast recording since Hair was on for 28 weeks. So there are things that will last. Other things are very transient. So I think we're kind of, and it's just weird. Harry Styles, I thought that album had kind of come and gone. I thought he'd done his thing. Post Malone's just never going away. Post Malone is just like, he's in the air we breathe. He's everywhere. But Harry Styles, I kind of wish we could kind of figure out what happened there. It's like the album came out. I thought there was some buzz and I thought it went away. And then all of a sudden it kind of made a comeback. I don't know if something is driving that, but there you have it. There are the numbers we have from Taylor Swift. So let me just go through some of the basic things again so that you can remember all of this. She has her 7th number 1 album. All right, her 7th number 1 album. She now has the most number 1 debuts among women. She's the 2020's biggest week for an album is Taylor Swift. And it's the biggest week since, Taylor Swift's last release, Lover. She has the biggest 3 weeks for any album in the last 4 years. And she has the biggest sales week for an album since Lover. Basically, it's been Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. So we've got a lot of other things happening in music, but that's what's going on. Now, what's interesting, when you look in the streaming services, you'll see, obviously, rap and R&B still dominating. Rap and R&B really dominate the streaming services, and this gets into this weird world, like rap and R&B many times dominate the streaming services because seems to be the predominant way in which people engage that form of music, that genre of music. And other forms of music, a lot of people still buy physical copies. And the physical copies, I don't know a good way to balance that out. We'll have to see how that works. But right now, Taylor Swift dominating music. And, if you haven't explored Folklore, I would really challenge you to put on a good pair of headphones. Or at least, if you're not going to have headphones on, turn off all your distractions. Turn everything off. Grab a copy of the lyrics and just sit and listen and let the album kind of wash over you. Definitely an album that deserves your attention. I think it's a beautiful piece of art. I think it's the album Taylor Swift was born to make. She's made it. She's going to always have this with her. It's going to be a part of her legacy. And I think history is going to look upon Taylor Swift favorably. And those who may hate her now, I think history will look at her as a major, a very important figure in music as it transitioned from physical sales to streaming. A very important figure in music as music was really struggling about, with sales, and sales are down. And here would come Taylor Swift, drop an album, sell 1 million, drop an album, sell 1 million. And I think that that's going to be a major part of her legacy. But there you have it. Taylor Swift, Folklore. It's big. The numbers prove it's big. And if you're a Taylor Swift fan, celebrate. If you're not, still celebrate. It's a success for the music world, and that's always good news. Let me know what you think. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. Thank you for listening to the Currently On podcast. And as I always end my broadcast, life is very, 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 very short. Get out there and enjoy it.